with Adcap Network Systems, and we're very excited to have a few folks on the line today. My name is Pablo Estrada. I'm also joined by a colleague here at Cisco Meraki, Chase Dalton. Chase, would you like to say hello to everyone?
Hey guys, I appreciate y'all joining us today. I'm Chase Dalton. I'm one of the channel account managers at Cisco Meraki. I'm out of the Atlanta, Georgia area and work closely with our strategic and gold certified partner Adcap. So we're very happy to bring this information in front of you guys today, and for y'all that registered through the portal properly, we'll have you guys access to some gear after this webinar, so thank you.
Thank you, Chase. And we're also super lucky to have Alan Smith from Adcap Network Systems, and I'll let Alan introduce himself and actually take you through a few of the first slides as we go into the content here. We have a lot of great content, so I'll cover a little bit more of the logistics after Alan goes forth with that.
Hey guys, thanks for joining the call. Just introduce us. Of course, Adcap is a Cisco Gold partner, certified with both the Cisco products and Meraki products. And from a wireless bring your own device solution, we do have a comprehensive solution. We have a lot of networking expertise. Been doing this for quite some time, both around the applications, unified communications, and security practices. Our workforce itself is at least 80% mobile, so we use this stuff in-house, and we got a track record of being able to deploy these things out with our customers successfully. So looking forward to talking to you guys about this. So I already talked about the fact that we use it internally and we understand it, and we can support it, and we continue to improve on what we do from a wireless and bring your own device solution perspective. The other thing too is any good BYOD solution is going to include aspects of data security, management, support, applications, networks, infrastructure, and policy. And the Meraki solution has that into it, and has all that in there natively, as well as some other things you can bring into it. So it's a very comprehensive solution. Plays really well into a bring your own device solution, into our practice as far as delivering on a bring your own device. So we're excited about that. Of course, our goal of what we try to do for our customers and try to do for ourselves is to improve competitiveness, to make be better responsive, be able to be more productive, and be able to get as much use out of our mobile workforce as we possibly can. Part of that is making sure that our systems are up, nothing goes down, everything stays up. We don't lose any data, and we keep our users happy. So Meraki plays really well into that. It's a great solution to help us deliver what we try to deliver to our customers, and we're excited about talking to you guys today.
Super. Thank you very much, Alan. And first, let me say that we appreciate your time and joining with you and Adcap in delivering this informational session to the audience. So thanks very much for your time. So let's talk about a little bit of what's ahead for the next 55 minutes or so. We have some great content lined up for you. We'll start off with a quick introduction both to the Cisco Meraki solution and to cloud networking in general. We'll actually spend a lot of time in the product demo and show you, instead of just telling you, a few of the things, really the highlights of the solution and how it addresses many of today's networking needs. And then we'll go behind the scenes just a little bit to talk about the technology and the architecture that makes it all work in the background. And then we'll focus on specific case studies and just take a look at a few of the customers that have deployed the Meraki solution in their environments with a different angle for each, just to highlight some of the most important aspects. And then we'll summarize everything with a quick look at the Cisco Meraki product families and the models, and of course leave some time at the end for Q&A. Now, if you do have questions at any time, as I mentioned, Jen is with me on the line today, so please enter your questions into the questions area in the GoToWebinar software, and she'll go ahead and answer them as you go. And then if we have time at the end, we may be able to repeat some of those questions and share the answers with the rest of the audience for the benefit of everyone. Now, as Chase and Alan mentioned earlier, we are offering free access points to the qualified IT professionals that are joining us today. And this is Cisco Meraki 802.11n access point, similar to the one that you see there on the screen. It also comes with a 3-year cloud management license. It's yours to keep. You can take it home. You can get it up and running in 5 or 10 minutes and really see in your own hands what it's like to use the Cisco Meraki wireless in this case. We do ask that you please call us to confirm your shipping information, and if you can't find the telephone number or the contact information to call for your Cisco Meraki rep, you can find that in the reminder email that you received before the start of today's webinar. Okay, so that's a little bit of logistics, and now that we've covered that, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about Cisco Meraki and then cloud networking. Now, Meraki is a leader in cloud networking. We have over 20,000 customer networks deployed around the world. The technology that became the basis of the Meraki portfolio was actually started off at a research project and later founded out of MIT back in 2006. And since then, we've continued a tradition of innovation and investment in R&D, and now have grown beyond wireless into a complete line of cloud-managed edge and branch networking solutions. So that includes, of course, wireless, but also switching, security, WAN optimization, and mobile device management. And Cisco acquired Meraki at the end of 2012 and formed a new group inside Cisco called the Cloud Networking Group. And we're super excited to be part of the Cisco family, to increase our investment in that Meraki technology and to use Cisco's reach to bring this technology to new markets. And so we're excited to go full steam ahead. We're not planning on any changes in pricing or the product roadmap or the licensing structure and so on. So we're very excited to be part of the Cisco family now. Now, some of you might have heard of cloud networking. I'm sure cloud isn't new to anyone on the line, but for those of you who haven't really dug into cloud networking, you might be wondering, well, what is it and why are we talking about it in the first place? And if we step back for a moment and before we talk about networking specifically, if we look at how cloud affects IT in general, we'll see that cloud really serves to increase the efficiency of IT. And it does that in three main ways: manageability, scalability, and cost savings. And manageability and scalability really go hand in hand because organizations today need to be able to very flexibly install or deploy new services to make sure that all their infrastructure and their services are up to date and they have the features in their systems needed to address those. They need to be able to scale, whether it's deploying a new small branch or expanding an existing location, and do that very efficiently. And also be able to reduce operational costs as IT budgets are continuously under pressure. We can't think of expanding both operational costs and also the burden on the IT staff. So the Meraki team's vision is bringing the cloud to enterprise networks, and we do this through a complete portfolio of wired and wireless solutions. So you see, of course, wireless APs, security appliances, Ethernet switches, and even down into the devices through mobile device management. And all of these parts of the system are managed through the Meraki dashboard. And we'll go through in the demo the specifics of the Meraki dashboard, and we'll go actually through a live demo and show you many of these aspects that enable this cloud-managed networking and how we can bring it through these parts of the infrastructure and IT. And really what we're doing is, with these solutions, bringing new ways to address and solve IT challenges. And I think it's no new thing now that we have millions and millions of devices showing up every day, and of course those are impacting the work environment as people bring in their tablets and smartphones, not only iOS but also Android and other devices. We have new business applications showing up all the time, and of course video and rich media, which is becoming increasingly popular and relied upon not only for personal communications but also in the workplace. And so we've designed our solution to be secure and give high capacity to edge and branch networks. And these three are just a few examples of organizations that have deployed the Cisco Meraki solution. We'll go through some more detailed case studies a little bit later on, but just to give you an idea of some of the types of organizations, and you'll see we've had success across a number of verticals or industries, including areas like education. Palo Alto Unified School District is a very well-known K-12 district here in the California Bay Area. Applebee's is a great example. They have over 300 restaurants where they've deployed Meraki, and they're using, of course, the built-in multi-site cloud management, also addressing their security needs to meet PCI compliance, and they're able to manage and deploy new branches, new restaurants very, very quickly. And GoPro, they're the makers of some very, very cool video cameras. They've actually been quite successful and been growing very fast over the past few years. And they've been able to grow from a small enterprise now to a medium-sized enterprise, and been able to, as they grow, expand and take advantage of the full enterprise feature set that's part of the Meraki solution and scale it and deploy it with no specialized training. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and move over to the demo and show you right in the dashboard what this all looks like. And before the webinar started, I logged into the Cisco Meraki dashboard simply by going to dashboard.meraki.com. I entered my credentials, and I've arrived at this, which is the organization overview page. Now, we're looking here at a live internal network. It's not a simulated network. This is the view that our IT team sees day in and day out as they manage all of our networks around the world. And you'll see, of course, the map that's showing locations of networks across the US and Latin America. If we go over to Europe, we'll see some more there. And we can dive in by clicking on any of those icons, or looking, for example, over in the UK, we can see some branch networks, some teleworker locations, and so on. And we can also look here, for example, typing in London, we can find the London branches, or maybe if we want to find only the wireless networks, we can just type in wireless and very quickly find a network of interest. Of course, if we see an icon that's yellow or perhaps red, there may be something that we need to investigate, and we could just click on it directly. Well, to start off, let's look at this one called Meraki Corp. And this is a network we have deployed at our main campus in San Francisco. And the first thing we see clicking there is the client's view. Now, this is one of the most exciting views in the dashboard because it gives us a lot of visibility into what's happening on the network, whether it be devices, users, applications, bandwidth, and so on. And you can see here we're looking at all the clients for the last week. We can filter this out and just look at, say, wireless clients to start. And by doing that, you'll see that we've had 705 devices connect to the wireless network. You can see they use just under a terabyte of data. And you can see that throughput activity over the past week. Of course, there's a lull over the weekend, and then again it picks back up into the start of the work week. And below, you see all those clients. Right now, they're sorted by usage. So we can see the top user in terms of bandwidth consumed. But with 705 clients, it's very important to be able to find a device quickly. And we do that by using something called client fingerprinting. And client fingerprinting allows us to simply type in something to this search box and find a device very quickly. So, for example, we can type in iPad and see 33 iPads connected in the past week on the network. And we can type in, say, Android, if we want to look for Android devices, 73 devices that are Androids connected to the network. Or we can type in someone's name. So, for example, if I type in Pablo, you'll see I've connected to the network with 2 devices, a MacBook Pro and an iPhone. And this is made possible by client fingerprinting. And just to give you a brief background of how that works, the system is actually looking at interesting network traffic as it goes by. And it's using things like DHCP requests, MAC addresses, web browser user agents, NetBIOS, Bonjour, and so on. And it's taking those bits of identifying information, and it's using them to build a profile and then report on the devices, and then making them very, very easy to find. Of course, we can still search by MAC or IP address. You see the IP address is shown there on the right side of the screen. But it's very, very easy to simply search by someone's name or someone's device. And then we can click in on any of these devices and find out more details about the device. Now, before I do that, I'll note that even though we were looking at only access point clients, the same view, the exact same view, and that searchability and visibility is available with our switches and our security appliances. So while we're looking at the wireless network now, this is also available on our wired products, and it's available independently. You don't have to have, say, the wireless view to also see it on the wired view. So if we wanted to look for servers, for example, or some infrastructure that's plugged into the LAN, maybe VoIP phones or desktops that are wired in, we could do that just as easily. Now let's go ahead and look at this one, which is a MacBook Pro, and you'll see that we have now a lot of visibility into one specific device. On the left, we have some status information This device was last seen, just about 20 minutes ago, and it was connected to this access point called 5F7. That's simply the naming convention we have on our floor plan, and was connected to an SSID called Meraki Corp. If it was connected right now, we could see the signal strength in real time. And we also see some information about the user and the device capabilities. It is a Mac running OS 10. It has 802.11n, dual band Wi-Fi, and you'll see it's using 802.1x. On the right, we can also see an estimate of the location of the device. So in this built-in Google map, which we can switch over to satellite view, we can see the approximate location, and sure enough, that's right around where my desk is and right where I disconnected from the network about 20 minutes ago. And below, we see some information about usage. And you'll see here, again, a throughput graph over the past week. We can see what's been happening in terms of total usage. Looks like 4.25 gigabytes. And on the right side, we see applications. And we can see by hovering over that pie chart, we can see what's been going on with the device. Where is this bandwidth going? What kind of activity? And you'll see a big slice of that pie chart has been music, in particular iTunes. We see a large slice also going to Dropbox. And then we see some other slices going to things like WebEx or Gmail and general business applications too. And so this gives us, for any device, a ton of visibility into what's happening in terms of bandwidth and applications. And if we wanted to do something about the activity on the network, we can do a few things. If we decide this device is abusing the network, perhaps, we can go over here to policy and put it into another bucket. And right now it has a normal policy applied, so it's not being treated any differently than the normal devices on the network. But we can, if we want it to be drastic, we can say, please see the IT department and block the device from accessing the network. Now, if we don't want to be quite so drastic, we can, instead of blocking, apply a particular group policy and put it into a bucket, say, for throttling video and music, if this device is using too much video and music, or maybe blocking BitTorrent in gaming. And that way, apply more restrictive group policies to the device and treat that device a little bit more carefully than the normal device. Now, this is also a part of our MX security appliance, so you can do the same thing if not only if it's a wireless client, but also if it's a wired client. And we're looking in really at one particular device. This is my laptop. We can go back and look at all the clients and go back and look at not just iPads or Androids, but all the wireless clients. And you'll see again on the right side that same pie chart that we just saw, but now it applies to the whole network. And we can look at these pie slices and see a big chunk is going to file sharing, and Dropbox in particular. We do use Dropbox here for file sharing and backup. You'll see TCP traffic, Adobe Flash, Gmail. We see miscellaneous web browsing, UDP, and YouTube. So we can get a lot of information about what's happening on the network. And we can click that pie chart and look at actually over 100 apps that are automatically classified and reported in this view here, and give us a great great insight into what's happening on the network. You'll see Dropbox is the number one application here. We'll see other applications that use a lot of bandwidth, including email, video, music, voice and video conferencing, software and antivirus updates, sports, and so on. And for any of these apps, we can dive into each of them and see who is using the most, say, Pandora or YouTube or maybe Netflix video. And that way understand who's using the network, who's using it for recreational purposes, who's using it for business apps, and have the information necessary to make policy decisions about how to shape or maybe block some of these applications. And to do that, we simply go over here to the wireless firewall and traffic shaping page. And what you'll notice here is a very intuitive way to shape traffic on the wireless network. And we can do this on the wired network as well with the MX security appliance. I'll just give you the example for the Wi-Fi network. And all we need to do is add a rule, and we select a particular category. Let's say in video and music, we can select all of them, or we can single out Netflix, Pandora, Hulu, and Vimeo, let's say, and Spotify. Or we can also select some other things like Xfinity and YouTube, but this should cover a majority of it. And now all we need to do is select the bandwidth limit of our choice, 100 kilobits per second. That way users will still be able to, let's say, add a movie to their Netflix queue, but they're not going to be able to download a video and watch it online, or at least it would be very painful to do that. Similarly, we can add another rule, but instead of throttling apps, we can also prioritize them. So for example, for business apps like VoIP and video conferencing and email, we can, instead of moving the slider down to throttle those, we can give these apps unlimited access to the Wi-Fi network. And that way people will have the speediest experience possible with these apps and services. And finally, if we decide that there is a category or a particular app that we don't want on the network entirely, we can simply add a layer 7 firewall rule and go here to, let's say, peer-to-peer. Now this includes apps like BitTorrent and Gnutella and encrypted peer-to-peer. We can just select the whole category, and now these apps won't be accessible on the network at all. So we're going to completely deny peer-to-peer applications. And you'll notice that with all of these rules, there's no need to understand or figure out or use the IP addresses associated with these services or the port ranges. You'll notice some of these applications are peer-to-peer, of course, like these that we're looking at here, but those aren't the only ones. We don't have to worry about their particular structure or behavior, because some of them operate in peer-to-peer mode only some of the time. And instead, all we need to do is choose the app or the application category, and then choose a limit, and that's all we need to do. Once we click on the Save Changes button, these policies are applied and applied at the network edge by the wireless APs. Now, speaking of those wireless APs, you might be wondering, well, what does the infrastructure look like? Well, let's have a look at that by monitoring the wireless access points. And you'll notice here when we pull up this page, we have a list of all of our access points. And at a glance, we can see which ones are online, which ones are healthy, how many clients are connecting, and so on. And you can see here we've sorted them again by usage. And they're all green, which means they're all online. That's of course, very important to the day-to-day operations. And we can dive into any of those by clicking in and seeing, for example, details about the configuration or the status, which channels are being used, the Ethernet connectivity. And on the right side, we've uploaded a floor plan so you can see details about where exactly this particular access point is located. And here we'll see not only this access point, which is down over here, but also the other access points that are on the same floor. And if it was on the 4th floor, for example, we could just pull up the floor plan of that floor. Below, you'll see some live tools that give us immediate and rich visibility into this particular part of the infrastructure. Now you'll see here there are 23 clients connected, and that Ethernet traffic graph is building in real time and showing us what's happening right now in terms of the load and the traffic on the AP. And of course, for all these devices, you can see these and see which ones have a high signal strength, which ones have a lower signal strength, how much bandwidth they're using, how long each has been connected, and so on. And some other tools that are built in allow us, for example, to check the channel utilization. You'll see here this is, of course, a dual band AP, so it's using channels 11 and 36. And utilization is moderate to acceptable on both bands. That's actually pretty great. Usually the 2.4 gigahertz band is a little bit more crowded and has a little bit more interference. This is showing 802.11 traffic and non-Wi-Fi interference. You'll also see built-in tools for troubleshooting and verification, things like ping, traceroute, throughput, all of them just available through just a single click. And all we need to do is watch this graph. It's showing the latency over time. Average latency here is 20 milliseconds. There's no packet loss. So everything is quite healthy with this access point. So not only rich visibility into the devices, the users, and the applications, but also the infrastructure itself, and even down to a single AP. Now, we've been looking at the wireless network so far. I do want to go over and show you some similar things on the wired side. And starting off by looking at the switches. Of course, almost all of the access points are connected to a switch. Otherwise, they're connected maybe by mesh and then to a switch. And by going over to the monitor switches page, we can see all the switches in our network, just like we saw all the Wi-Fi APs. And this is something we call virtual stacking. With virtual stacking, we use cloud management to allow you to monitor and configure all the switches and switch ports in your network. And even though we're looking at just one site, we could do this over multiple sites and have them in the same view as well. Now, you'll see here that, again, all the switches are green. That means they're healthy, they're connected. We see information about how many ports are active. Over here on the right, we see things like IP and MAC address and model. And if we dive in, we can find one, for example, like this one. And this happens to be an 8-port switch. It's an MS220 8P. It's a PoE switch. This one only has one active port. I should have clicked on another one. So we'll go back here and sort by active ports. Let's have a look at this one. And this is an MS42P. This is a 48-port PoE switch with PoE Plus, actually. And you'll see a very similar view to what we saw with the AP, but now we can see config status, including switch-specific parameters like RSTP, live PoE consumption, and down here we see all the ports that are being used and the ones that aren't used. Naturally, the black ones are not in use, the green ones are in use, and the ones with the P indicate that they are supplying power to a PoE device. And we can look at each of those, or we can expand the port list and have a look at all those ports. And you'll notice this is also updating in real time. So it's showing us for each port, if it's an access or trunk port, which VLANs are associated with the port, the current traffic, the total bytes transferred, and even things like PoE power. Of course, that'll fluctuate as people make or receive telephone calls. The LLDP field shows us what type of device is connected to that port, and you'll see things about the link, whether it's 100 megabit or a gigabit connection, full duplex, and so on. And for any of these ports, we can click in and see even more details or even change the configuration. So this one, for example, is an access port on VLAN 108 with VoiceLAN 104, and it's using 3.3 watts of power. It is connecting a ShoreTel 230 VoIP phone. You can see information about its serial number, even things like the ShoreTel boot version. So if there has to be any troubleshooting on this particular port, then we can see that information and verify some of the things about the phone itself without even having to go to the phone. Now, to edit the configuration, if we wanted to, we could just click on Edit and change a few things. For example, if we want to place on a different VLAN, we can change this VLAN over here for the voice VLAN. Or maybe we want to toggle the PoE power and reboot a phone. We can do that very quickly here. Or change other things like port scheduling or access policies, MAC whitelisting, and so on. Now, we can do that for any port, but sometimes we want to make configuration changes on more than just one port. And we can do that by going to the Switch Ports page. And now, here we see some of the flexibility and the power of virtual stacking, because instead of having to go into a group of 4 switches or 9 switches each at a time, we can see all 2,372 switch ports in this view, and then we can search for them or access only the ones that we want. For example, we can search by typing in a switch name here, or we can search for, say, a port range. Let's say ports 10 through 13. Oops. And here we see 186 switch ports match that port range. And we can take some of these and select all the ones that we want, or we can refine the search further and filter it down to less than 186. And then we can click on Edit. And here we can change things all at once. So in this case, I've just selected 4 ports, but we could select much more than that. And we can do things like reboot the PoE, for example, to reboot all the phones, or change the voice VLAN or the native VLAN, or prune the VLANs from the allowed list for those access ports. So we can do that across many switches, across many ports, and even if these switches were distributed across multiple sites, across all those locations. Now, I do want to show you a few other parts of the wired network, and the next thing I want to show you is the security appliance. And this is an edge firewall or UTM type device that has quite a lot of functionality built in. So it has things like traffic shaping, content filtering, WAN optimization. Unfortunately, we don't have time to go into all of these, so I just wanted to show you a few of them as a highlight. And here we're looking at a particular device, again a status view to show us the real-time status into this particular device. Now this is a particularly important device because it's not an access device. So in fact, it is connecting our location here in San Francisco to the rest of the Cisco internal network and to the internet. And you'll see here it has two WAN ports, WAN 1 and WAN 2. They're both green and they're live. And you'll see that internet traffic is showing us that connectivity, and it's flowing in real time. And you can see here the traffic is going almost all of it over Internet 1. Internet 2 is still live, but we're not really using it to serve traffic. Instead, we're using it as a backup. While we could use it to serve traffic, our Internet 1 link is pretty high bandwidth, so we're just using Internet 2 as a backup. And if there is a glitch or an outage with Internet 1, then the MX security appliance will automatically fail over all the traffic and start routing it over the Internet 2 link. And that way, you don't have to, as an administrator, actually fail over these links. The connections will reestablish themselves, and of course, the Internet 2 link will be used during the time that the Internet 1 link is unavailable. When Internet 1 does come back, then of course it will switch back to the original preferences, in this case using Internet 1 as the primary uplink. Similarly, because the connectivity and the health of this device is so important, you'll see live tools, again, such as ping, traceroute, DNS throughput tools, etc., that allow you to verify the connectivity and the operation of this device, of course, which is so important to all the traffic that's flowing underneath it or coming from underneath it. Now, I do want to highlight one of the most exciting parts of the security appliance, and that's the site-to-site VPN. Now, the security appliance has something we call Auto VPN, which is an IPsec-based site-to-site VPN. And the most exciting part of it is how easy it is to deploy and configure across many, many locations. So if you have an organization that has many sites, if you are in charge of the networking at those locations, I think this will be super exciting to you. And you'll notice here the site-to-site VPN is disabled. To enable it, all we need to do is click on split tunnel or full tunnel. In our case, we're using a split tunnel configuration. We can also select the topology to have each of the sites connect directly to each other as they need to transfer traffic, or have them all connect to one VPN peer in a hub and spoke model. This top one is often called a mesh VPN model. And all we need to do then is select what we want for our organization. You'll notice that we have many subnets locally. Not all of them are shared with the rest of the VPN peers. And it's as simple as toggling these to yes or no. And for reference, we see the other VPN sites' subnets that are being shared with the network down here. And that's all we need to do to set up a site-to-site VPN. The other parameters that are traditionally handled manually or via the command line or just are simply tedious to do, things like establishing the routes between all these peers and all the subnets, handling IP addresses for all the locations, setting up the security association parameters, passphrases and handshakes and all that. That's handled in the background by the MX and by the cloud, so that if you want to deploy connectivity between many, many locations, all you need to do is enable it through a few clicks, and away you go. So that's our site-to-site VPN. It's built into all the security appliances, and it's very, very exciting. Finally, one more thing I'd like to show you is Systems Manager. And this is a cloud-based MDM solution, and we are using it to manage Windows, Mac OS, and iOS and Android devices. And you'll see here we have 643 clients that we manage. We can have a look at all of those. And this, which you'll see, is a very similar view to the client's view that we saw near the beginning of the demo. And here, again, we can search for particular devices of interest, for example, by typing in something like iPad and finding the iPads that are managed by the system. And just to be clear, these are devices that are managed or enrolled in an MDM system. And so our IT department, when they issue a new device to an employee as they join, they will, of course, also enroll the device, whether it's a laptop or a mobile device for, say, someone who's on the road. They will enroll that device in the MDM system. And here you can see, for example, we have several iPads under management, and this one called Marketing iPad number 2 is currently online. We can click in and see a lot of detail about the device. For example, it happens to be an iPad 2. Its battery is fully charged. It still has quite a bit of storage space remaining. And below, we can see some commands. For example, if the user forgets his or her passcode, we can click here to clear the passcode, and then that previous passcode is erased, and the user is prompted to select a new one. Or if we wanted to selectively wipe and remove all the managed apps and profiles, we can simply click a button there. Or if the device is lost or stolen, we can click here to erase the device and erase all the data on the device. Perhaps we won't be able to recover the hardware, but then we can make sure that all the apps and the information are not falling into the wrong hands. We can also use the system to deploy apps, whether it's from the iTunes or Apple App Store or Google Play Store. We can enforce security policies and restrictions, and of course we can track those devices. And one great thing about Systems Manager is it does not require any hardware or on-premise management server. It's completely based in the cloud, and it is also 100% free. So you don't need anything to get started. All you need to do is create an account with the Meraki dashboard and enroll devices into Systems Manager. So that was just a quick tour and really just some of the highlights of the Meraki dashboard and the Cisco Meraki product line. And I hope that was useful. And if there are any other things that we didn't cover or you might be curious about, please let us know in the Q&A. Keep Jen busy. She's waiting for your questions, and we can, of course, then share them at the end, too. Now, I did talk a little bit about cloud networking and the architecture, especially as we talked about that auto VPN, but a few things that are important to note. We've built the architecture to be scalable, reliable, and secure. And there's a lot of detail that goes into some of these that enable that, but the most important things to note is that we've designed the system as an out-of-band control plane. We can add capacity simply by adding devices. When you add a new Meraki device into your environment, you turn it on and you plug it in, it automatically connects to the cloud, it downloads its configuration, and it shows up in your dashboard. We've also built the system for reliability and security. We have multiple data centers around the world. We have a 99.99% uptime SLA. And if that management link that's shown there in blue is interrupted for whatever reason, then your local network will still continue to work. Clients will still be able to print or use the servers, connect to the Wi-Fi network, and so on. And it's also important to note that no user traffic passes through the cloud. That link in blue is only for management and configuration data. And because of that and several sturdy and focused security features that we have built into the product, we can deploy the solution and have successfully in very security conscious environments. So we are, in fact, even PCI Level 1 certified. And not only we have these features for scalability and reliability and security, we can also scale the cloud infrastructure in terms of capacity and network or deployment scale. And these are just a few of the examples of some larger scale deployments that have successfully deployed the Cisco Meraki solution. And you'll see there it's been proven in 10,000 plus device deployments. The cloud architecture also allows us to deliver features in a software as a service model. And we deliver those continuously for all the product lines and give quarterly updates. And these are just a few, some of the highlights of recent features that we've delivered to our customers. And in fact, that's part of the product and licensing model. You get features on an ongoing basis, whether it's right through the dashboard or through software updates to the devices themselves. So I do want to talk a little bit more specifically about some of the customers that have deployed the Meraki solution in their environments and focus on some different aspects of each just to see how and show you how it can apply in a varied range of environments. And the first one is very exciting. It's Nespresso. And Nespresso is really on the leading edge in terms of retailers that are modernizing the customer experience. And they've deployed a next-gen retail experience that's using the guest Wi-Fi for, of course, their customers, also mobile point of sale and video displays. They're using the Meraki Wi-Fi and switches and security appliances across their 22 high-end retail stores and their headquarters. They use the security features to maintain PCI compliance, and they're actually using Systems Manager to configure and track and monitor and secure those mobile terminals because, of course, they are so important to their actual transactions as they happen in the stores. A great example of high density and BYOD is MIT. MIT has deployed the Meraki solution in their computer science and artificial intelligence lab. You see that satellite view with the nodes there in the screenshot. And as you can imagine, students coming into this environment have a ton of devices. They're using all kinds of applications, existing and even leading edge apps. And this system with the high density Wi-Fi enables the department to allow BYOD to support their research environments. They can use the built-in features to segment their users based on students or researchers or staff. And because it is a challenging physical environment, they take advantage of the built-in automatic RF optimization that keeps the system tuned for that high performance and high density. A great example of how we can use cloud networking to lower operational costs comes from Motel 6. And Motel 6 is an example of a very large-scale Meraki deployment. They've deployed 10,000 wireless APs across 620 properties around the U.S. That's covering 70,000 hotel rooms. And the entire network is managed through a single dashboard. And they can go in and look at any of their properties, look at any of the access points, look at the activity, look at the applications that are consuming the bandwidth, make configuration changes, and so on. And they were actually able to deploy all these 10,000 APs nationwide across all of those hotels in just under 5 months. Quite an impressive rollout schedule. And Vector Media is a great example of a distributed organization. They are an advertising and advertising services company, and they're using that site-to-site VPN that we showed earlier, the Auto VPN. They're also using the WAN optimization that's built into the MX. And by connecting their offices and branches across the U.S., they're able to actually reduce the bandwidth consumption with the WAN optimization, reduce the connectivity costs because they're now transferring a lot less bandwidth as they transfer large media files to and from the different offices. And their link bonding is providing that zero configuration link redundancy that we showed in the live tool view of the MX and allowing them to expand their capacity without having to upgrade or purchase a very expensive leased or private line. And Mosaic is another example of a distributed organization. They're an assisted living and living services organization. They have HIPAA-compliant Wi-Fi, switching, and security. They have around 5,000 employees. They're a nonprofit with 40 facilities across, you can see there, 11 states around the middle and southern parts, mostly of the U.S. And they have a centralized IT staff that manages over 300 wireless APs, 400 security appliances, and all the switches to power that. And they've been able to support that distributed network with a small staff and still support services like wireless EMR and guest Wi-Fi. So that's a quick look at some of the highlights of the product and some ways that some organizations across different areas are using the product in different ways. Even though we showed in the demo some of the products, I do want to give you an overview look of the product families. Now, our wireless APs, the MR line, we have 5 models, including indoor and outdoor APs. They range from value priced all the way up to very high performance APs. And all of the devices have a common feature set. You can see that in the feature highlights on the right. And they are enterprise class APs, so they include things like they can power through PoE. They have voice and video optimization. We saw things like the traffic shaping. There's a lot of built-in security through WIDs and WIPs or intrusion protection, guest access, which is enabled in just a few clicks securely, BYOD policies, and so on. And all the indoor IPs have a lifetime warranty as well. The MX security appliances are also available in a range of models that allow it to scale from small branches all the way up to larger campus-sized locations. And they're designed as a complete networking and security solution in one appliance. We just took a quick look at some of the highlights, but you can see there things other than the auto VPN and WAN optimization that we talked about. It does have things like content filtering, a next generation firewall, intrusion detection, and security through AV filtering. And so a lot of services and features that are needed at the branch built in and integrated into one device. And our Ethernet switches are layer 2 gigabit switches available in 24 and 48 port configurations with and without PoE. There's also an 8-port switch model available. And these are enterprise class switches, so they include gigabit non-blocking performance. The PoE models have PoE and PoE Plus available on all the ports. The 48-port models have up to 10 gigabit uplink connectivity, and they have enterprise features like voice and video QoS. They have enterprise security. We have live tools like remote packet capture and cable testing, and they have that same layer 7 device and application visibility that we saw in the wireless and the wired network. And the virtual stacking really takes the power of cloud management and applies it to a switch network, making the configuration and the day-to-day operations of switches very efficient and easy. And finally, Systems Manager is our cloud-based MDM. It controls iOS and Android plus Mac and Windows devices. It is completely cloud-based, and there's no on-site appliances or software. It actually works with any vendor's network. So if you already have Wi-Fi in place, or if you have recently refreshed, say, your switches, System Manager will still work in your environment because it is completely based in the cloud. It is also free. You can sign up at meraki.com/sm and actually create an account and enroll devices and start to manage them through the Meraki dashboard. It allows you to have that centralized management of the devices so you can monitor and track your inventory. You can deploy software and apps. You can enforce security restrictions, for example, to disallow users from installing their own apps or enforce some security restrictions on the device itself. And you can deploy network settings, things like Wi-Fi and VPN settings, or even exchange active sync to those devices. So then you configure once in the dashboard and then roll out those network or other credentials settings into those devices instead of having to configure and touch each of those mobile devices. And a few things that are common to all the Cisco Meraki product families, and some of these we saw in the demo. Some of them are a little bit harder to show directly, but I did want to touch on them. Multi-site management, of course, is built in, and we saw that even from the first view of that Google map where we saw all the Meraki networks that are scattered around the world. All the devices have zero-touch device provisioning, so you don't have to stage them or provision them before you roll them out in your own environment or send them out to one of your branches. They also have seamless firmware upgrades. So I talked a little bit about how we can deliver features in a software as a service way. The feature delivery actually and those firmware upgrades are super easy. All you do is schedule a time during which you want to have the firmware upgraded, and the cloud and the Meraki dashboard take care of all the rest. You don't have to worry about saving the existing config, downloading a firmware image file, uploading that firmware image to your devices, applying the previous config. All of that is taken care of so that you don't have to worry about it. We also have built-in summary reports. We have PCI compliance, and I mentioned before that 99.99% uptime SLA. And one of the greatest things about the Meraki solution is that we have free evaluations. And this is a great way to try the technology in your own hands and see how it works in your own environment. We'll actually send you gear to your site for free. There's no risk and there's no commitment. You'll be able to get it up and running in just a few minutes. You can see how it works in your environment. If you have any questions about the configuration or maybe integration or compatibility with what you already have running, maybe things like Active Directory servers or authentication systems, then we're happy to make technical assistance available to you and help you evaluate if it's the right fit for you. If it is, you can buy that gear. If it is not, you can simply send it back to us again for free. So with that, we've come to the end of the prepared content. I do want to see if there are any remaining questions. If there's something on your mind and you haven't asked it already, now's a great time to enter the question into the questions area. And I've noticed that Jen has answered almost all the questions. I'm going to go back through the list and see if there are any that she already answered, but I can repeat for the benefit of everyone else. Question about the Android and iOS device tracking from Systems Manager. The question is there GPS tracking and is it available in real time? Yes, so with Google Play and Apple App Store apps for those two operating systems, we can use GPS to enable the tracking in real time of those devices. We can also disable them in case you have devices that you maybe don't want to track. Let's say it's your CEO's iPad or something like this. You don't have to track it for all the devices. Another question on System Manager is, can you manage Windows 7 laptops? Yes, we can. A few questions have come in about this presentation today. So we are recording the presentation and we'll pass it on to the Adcap folks, and you can get it from them, and that'll include a copy of the slides. A question about security policies on the security appliance. Can you have basically per user group rules based on AD with the security appliance? Yes, you can. We can also do that on the Wi-Fi network, but we have a very similar functionality on the security appliance. Question on the MX60W, it looks like this would be comparable to the MR24. Is there an MR34 comparable model? So one note about the 60W, it does not have the same Wi-Fi features as the MR line. You can consider the Wi-Fi features as being the wireless essentials integrated into the MX60. It's not intended to replace the full wireless feature set of the MR24. We do have an MR34 model that we just announced earlier this month, and that's actually an 802.11ac model. That's, of course, the newest Wi-Fi standard. That's different, however, from the MX60W. A question, if I can clarify the costs associated with Systems Manager. The software is free. All the features are free. We also include email-based support with Systems Manager. That's free. If you want telephone-based support, and actually if you have troubleshooting questions, talk to someone live, we do make that available, and that's available for purchase. And the cost is $20 per device per year. And I'm just looking to see if there are any other questions. Question is, can you integrate or implement other brands of switches, for example, Dell? So we are compatible with other switches. So if you have other switches in your environment, then we can coexist with them. But those other third-party switches won't be managed by the Meraki dashboard. Okay, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. We definitely love all those great questions. Thank you very much for entering those. If you have any more questions, do reach out to us, and we'd be happy to go over them with you. I want to thank, again, Alan from Adcap and Chase from the Cisco Meraki team for joining us today. We appreciate your time and your attention, and we hope all of you have a wonderful day. Thank you very much.